Hello and welcome to this lesson where we're going to go through proper finger picking technique. Now this is one of those things that it's very easy to develop a lot of quite bad habits with early on. A lot of things that at first are going to feel like the right thing to do, but actually they're kind of not. So hopefully with this lesson we'll be able to avoid a lot of those bad habits and get you on the right track from day one. So before we take a look at the actual picking hand itself and dive into the technique and the posture and have a look at some exercises and all that fun stuff, just a wee bit of information I want you to be aware of. You might sometimes see on tab and notation, and you will see in the exercises I'm going to show you in this video, letters above certain notes on the notation. That's because different letters can be assigned to each one of the fingers in our picking hand. I think they originally come from the Italian names for each of the individual fingers. So I'm going to put a wee diagram up on screen for you, but just to also talk you through it. The letter we assign to our thumb is P, the letter we assign to our first finger is I, the letter we assign to our second finger is M, our third finger is A, and then our pinky is C. But we're not actually going to use our pinky today, but you know, it's always fun to know these things. So when you have a look at the tab and you see all these letters floating around everywhere, that's what it's for. It's just a helpful wee reminder of what finger you should be using to play notes on what string. So before we take a closer look at the actual mechanics of how our picking hand will work, I just want to talk a wee bit about how we're going to position our hand in relation to the guitar and the strings. Now when using a pick, everybody's picking technique is ever so slightly different. There's always going to be subtle little differences here and there. But by and large, most people do a similar thing to one another. They'll have the soft, fleshy part of their hand somewhere hovering above the bridge-ish, and their fingers will be pointing at an angle towards the floor. Now when we're finger picking, what we want to do is instead of having our fingers at this angle, we want to have them pointing directly at the floor, as close to vertical as possible. Now to do that, some people will move their elbow further up the guitar so that they can get their fingers pointing down. Some people are able to keep their elbow where they always do and just have all their movement coming from the wrist to keep their fingers pointing down. Either or is fine really, just as long as your fingers are pointing as close to directly vertical as possible and going directly down to the floor. Other points, we want to make sure that we have a bit of flexion in our wrist, kind of like we've got a little claw thing going on. We want our wrist to be nice and relaxed and hovering over the strings. We're not looking to anchor our wrist onto the strings. We're not looking to anchor our pinky on the guitar. That's a big no-no. That's a really common bad habit that you see a lot of people have. You can sometimes get away with having your thumb anchored on the low E string. I'm kind of okay with that one. That's not the end of the world. But ideally, we want our whole hand to be relaxed, bending the wrist, hovering over the guitar, with the fingers pointing down directly to the floor. Okay, so let's take a wee closer look at the hand now, how it's going to be positioned and also what fingers we use to do what. So hopefully from this angle you should be able to see a little bit better what I was talking about with regards to our angle and our wrist, and also how our hand can kind of float nice and relaxed over the strings with our fingers pointing towards the floor. Now there are certain rules that we tend to follow with regards to what fingers play what strings. It's not a hard and fast rule. It will change depending on what piece you're playing, but it's a good place to start, and 9 times out of 10 it is the sort of pattern that we're going to end up following. So the rule is our thumb will play anything on the low E, A or D strings, and it's going to move about those 3 strings to suit. Then our first finger will play anything on the G string, our second finger plays anything on the B string, and our third finger will play anything on the high E. Now when we're playing the strings, our fingers are going to move towards our palm. It doesn't need to be as exaggerated as that, just a slight little movement will do, but they are moving towards the palm. Our thumb is moving towards the floor or towards our other fingers is another place you could think of it going. And a good place to start would be to just take open strings, don't worry about our fretting hand right now, and just run through all those strings with all those fingers, just to get comfortable with having our hand in this position and playing specific strings with specific fingers. So you can start off by just playing the low E, and then G, B, and high E strings. Then you can move your thumb onto the A string and do the same thing. And then onto the D string and do the same thing. Once you get good at that, you can start going back the way. So we can go E, B, G, and then D. Then E, B, G, A. Then E, B, G, E. And then once you get good at that, you can put it all together. I would encourage you to take some time just working through open strings, just like that. Again, just to get your hand comfortable being in this position and get your fingers comfortable playing specific strings. Once you get good at that, then we can take a look at our fretting hand and we can start doing some more interesting stuff with that. So once you get comfortable playing all those open strings and your hand is starting to get used to being in that position, we can start incorporating our fretting hand and doing some chordal stuff. So I've got a little exercise that you can work through. It's just 3 really simple chords. We're just going A minor to D minor, back to A minor, to E major, and then back to A minor. I'm not going to go through how you play those chords in this video for the sake of time. I'm going to assume you already know them. If you don't, you can check out my chord series that goes through how you play every open position, major, minor, and dominant 7th chord. So you'll find all of them in that series. Go check that out and then come back. Our picking pattern for each chord is going to be P, I, M, A, M, I. So on the A minor chord, for example, we'd be playing the A string, and then G, B, E, B, G. Then we change chords, go to a D minor, so then our thumb will be on the D string, we'll go D, G, B, E, B, G, back to A minor, to our E chord, so our thumb's going to go onto the low E string, E, G, B, E, B, G, back to A minor. And then the whole thing will just repeat. So let's see what the full thing will look like with a close-up on both my right and my left hands. So thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, then don't forget to give it a like. You can also subscribe to my channel. I'm going to have new lessons coming out very soon. So until I see you in the next one, happy practicing.